something fantastic you're guaranteed to love.
I'm good.
Well, imagine if they made a movie with your favorite moving picture maker, George Lucas.
The great bearded one?
And what if Mr. Lucas then cast that foxy Lea Thompson from Back in the Future?
I'm slightly listening.
And what if I told you this very movie was from the writer of Indiana Jones?
I'm an adult now. I know it's simply not possible.
Before Iron Man kicked off the MCU, before Spider-Man broke box office records, before Roger Corman made the best Fantastic Four movie, the first major Marvel Comics property to get a live-action film was none other than Howard the Duck.
What's this stuff in this bag?
I prepared a little flight kit. Nothing special, just a few travel necessities. I emphasize the word travel. And of course, the bag will come in handy in case of turbulence. Or if they show Howard the Duck.
Yep, back in 1986, Marvel and Lucasfilm did something weird. They made a movie adaptation of Howard the Duck. The character had been around since 1973, and he was mostly a satirical character. But more importantly, there wasn't a huge fan base that demanded a movie be made about him. Regardless, they pushed through and created a film that's as strange as it is awful. It's definitely one of those movies that's so bad it's good, or at least so bad you have to watch it at least once to see what passed for an acceptable movie pitch in the mid-1980s.
That's it. No more Mr. Nice Duck.
Lucas teamed up with two schoolmates,
Willard, Huyck, and Gloria Katz,
who he'd previous worked with on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. They originally wanted to make Howard the Duck as an animated film, something that may have worked, but the studio was looking for a big budget release for the summer blockbuster window.
Not now, Dorothy. This man is still very down about his financial situation. He was one of the principal backers of Howard the Duck.
Based on Steve Gerber's offbeat creation, which suffered some collateral damage it didn't deserve, the film resembles one of those Saturday Night Live sketches that has one joke and keeps going and going and going. The joke here is that Howard is a sentient, cigar-chomping duck from another planet, and wouldn't it be hilarious if he crash-landed on Earth, where people aren't used to foul language?
Not my shorts! Find you perverts!
But before we get into all that, we first spend a good 5 minutes with Howard as he does his job in the Love Hotel. He reads a Play Duck magazine. A girlfriend sends a phone message, essentially inviting him to come over and smash. And when Howard is being sucked out of his house, he crashes through a bathroom where a female duck is naked and she has... yikes. So whoosh through a wormhole goes poor, workaday Howard from his living room in Duck World to an alleyway in Cleveland, where he's immediately accosted by street toughs, who, for some reason, are unmoved by the miracle of a duck trying to talk them down. Right away, the movie's biggest conceptual problem reveals itself. Sometimes humans are unfazed by Howard, sometimes they recoil in horror. Rarely does the world seem stranger than the stranger, which is the essence of fish out of water comedy.
You know how to mop?
Oh, yes, of course.
All right. There you go.
Anyway, at this point, Howard meets an off-brand female rock star named Beverly, played by Lea Thompson. The two hit it off and things get just as weird and bizarre as you could imagine it could be. Despite the fact that they are literally from different planets, the two become rather close. He helps her manage her music career and she helps him acclimate himself to life on Earth. However, things come to a head after one night when Beverly strips down to her panties, invites Howard into her bed, and they have a brief smooching session. In the comic book version of these characters, their romantic relationship is explored much deeper and in much more graphic detail. So perhaps we should be thankful that the film only chose to make things only moderately creepy.
So, okay, now, did you know what your mom did as a kid? I mean, she was in movies and television. How aware of you of your mom's fame?
I thought I knew what she did. When I was little, I guess I was scrolling through the TV and I came across, have you guys ever seen Howard the Duck? Has anyone seen it? Okay, so there's a particular scene in the film in which my mother makes love to a duck.
You thought that she was going to leave your dad for a duck.
A duck. And so eventually they're like, it's for grown-ups, this film, you don't need to watch that. You weren't supposed to see that. And so at school, when people would ask me what my mom does for a living, I would say, I would say she's an actress in adult films.
Indeed, the film proved a somewhat inauspicious first step into Hollywood for Marvel Comics, taking a character who was really never meant for children and tried to push the envelope for what movies could get away with under a PG. It didn't help that the central character is such an annoying little twerp. Howard the might have been a more appropriate moniker.
Nice place. You pay to live here?
To build suspense, the appearance of Howard was kept secret from the public until the release of the film, which turned out to be a big marketing mess. In fact, we found an interesting summation of the problem over at Den of Geek. Let's review.
You know, he's the most exciting individual I've ever met. He isn't into the whole macho thing, but he knows who he is and what he wants. Everyone thinks of him as a hero now. But I share his feelings, and he's touched my soul. And right now, I would give anything to run my fingers through his feathers.
George Lucas presents an electrifying new comedy, Howard the Duck. More adventure than humanly possible.
The first look audiences were given of the film was a bizarre teaser in which Lea Thompson's Beverly character coos about wanting to fornicate with a waterfowl. This leads some to believe that they were heading to the theaters to see some kind of kinky teen comedy. But of course, in the actual movie, things go from comedic to rather bleak. Couple this with the aforementioned alarming moment between Beverly and Howard, and you've got a marketing nightmare in your hands. So, this was the next trailer.
He's like many of us, mired in the routine of upward mobility, but all that is about to change. With an unexpected trip to a place called Cleveland. A romance with a girl named Beverly.
He's my boyfriend!
And an adventure beyond the imagination of the average duck.
The duck's a lunatic!
George Lucas presents Howard the Duck.
As a hodgepodge of so many genres, Howard the Duck was a tough sell. And as already stated, the powers that be hid Howard from all the marketing materials until the film's release. Their solution to this dilemma? They would focus on his attitude instead of his appearance. Thus, the Duck Calls phone line was born.
Greetings again, Earth friends, and thank you for calling me, Howard the Duck, star of Universal Pictures' new movie. You know, I thought it would be a good idea for you to get to know some of my film friends. For Hairless Apes, they're really a pretty good group. Let's start with that famous scientist, Phil Blumberg. Phil, say hello.
Nice ducky. Me, Phil. You, Howard. We be friends.
Don't mind him. He's been spending too much time in the lab lately. Phil Z, do you think the movie's going to be a smash hit?
Theoretically, yes. Unfortunately, it's never been tested.
Yeah, I see.
During the summer of 1986, you could dial 1-900-410-DUCK and listen to Howard tell you about the movie, its characters, and his adventures on Earth. And then you can spend the rest of your money on the Freddy Krueger hotline.
Once again, foolish friends, Freddy Krueger is on your phone. Dial this number now. I've got some tales to tell. Freddy's favorite bedtime stories. Dead time stories. All brand new, straight from my boiler room to your home. It's Freddy Krueger on your phone. So dial this number now if you dare. Tell him Freddy sent you.
$2 the first minute, 45 cents each additional minute. Children, get your parents' permission before you dial.
Oh, and there was also a promotional tie-in with Budweiser in which the King of Beers was named as Howard's drink of choice on a special movie poster that was apparently a big hit with beer distributors and second-run movie theaters on Skid Row. Now let's not forget about the music video, Don't Turn Away.
Holy baby, this gig is gonna bust Cleveland wide open!
Once again, the powers that be were hesitant to show off their lead, despite the fact that the video was released around the same time as the film hit theaters. After the first screening to the top brass, many left the theater without commenting. There was even a rumor that the heads of production for the studio had a fist fight in an office as each blamed the other for greenlighting the film. Almost needless to express, but upon its release, audiences stayed away. The film barely managed to make its fairly lofty budget back.
Yes, Howard the Duck came from outer space on a laser beam and landed in our society with a cigar in his mouth and a scowl on his face, and before long, the studio chiefs in Hollywood were scowling too because Howard laid a real big egg The movie cost a reported more than $40 million to make, and it grossed just about $10,000 on the million. I don't know if you've ever got that math, but it's not real good. Here's Howard, a little man in a duck suit, visiting the Natural History Museum with his friend, played by Lea Thompson.
I just want to know, A, what I'm doing here, and B, how I'm going to get back.
Piece of cake. A, I'm just the guy to help, and that's because B, I've already got a theory.
What theory?
Well, this is, of course, the evolutionary ladder, showing how man progressed from monkey to me, for instance.
You consider that progress?
After the movie was released, everybody said with the benefit of hindsight that it was insane to make a movie about a duck from outer space. But I don't know. I think it would have been possible for Howard to maybe have worked if only they'd started with a funny, likable duck in a comedy. Instead, they made a grim, worried duck in a special effects adventure, and then they filled the soundtrack with bittersweet and even downbeat music to be sure that we didn't get the feeling too good. What a miscalculation.
Well, the film is based on a comic book where he's sort of a wisecracking, like, you know, cynical Groucho Marx type duck. If they had done that, that would have worked. Or make it more a Donald kind of thing, kind of fun. But instead, there is this wandering all over the case with the central character, the duck, the one that we're going to be rooting for, have a rooting interest in, is neither funny or bitter funny, and it doesn't work at all. And as for the special effects, I think that comes out of the success of Ghostbusters, and it is just like thrown on at the end of the picture, at which point they've lost us completely.
Right. Well, the producer of the picture was George Lucas, and he has a company that does special effects,
and they did
all these special effects. So maybe they'd done a little more special effects, and whether they wanted to make a movie about a duck, maybe that would have been a good special effect. Just all done right up here.
Okay, let's try to be positive for a moment. Yes, this film is gloriously stupid, and it would be hard to begrudge anyone for disliking it. But for a live-action movie about a talking duck who defeats an extraterrestrial with the help of a sexy rock chick and a goofy nerd, you get exactly what you expect. The effects are fairly decent, all the performances are fine, and it ends with a rousing pre-digital ILM spectacle. Sure, the jokes err on the side of immature puns all too often. There's a stench of 80s cheese that grows more pungent with each passing year, and fans of the source material will always say it's a terrible dilution of the comic book. But as far as silly pieces of trash cinema go, Howard the Duck's more entertaining than people dare admit.
If this band is going any place, it's because of my talent.
Whatever you say. This is going to be the biggest bomb since Howard the Duck.
It's certainly no masterpiece. It's not a film that needs reevaluating as a modern classic that was ahead of its time. However, out of the chaos of its production, there is a film in there somewhere which, if you accept it for what it is at least entertaining. To an adult, even those scenes which seem contradictory to the usual ethos of a big summer movie may appeal to some with a certain sense of humor. It is over the top, it's loud and uneven, but there's a subversive quality to it that works very well. Or not. Whatever.
Like they say, Dal, love's strange. We could always give it a try.
Okay. Let's go for it, Mr. Macho.
What am I watching? A lady and a duck in bed? Who the thought this was a good idea?